today we're going to be talking about AI. AI is something I mentioned this on a community tab post recently. Thank you everybody for being patient today too. We're using some new software here that I haven't used before, and old fuzzy Daniel sometimes takes a little time to get things figured out. But I had a community tab post recently where I was talking about AI and how I think how powerful it is and how it impacts our lives and how it's everywhere. And there was a lot of emotion. There was much emotion about just the way people feel about it and how it's affecting us as creators. And I reached out to a very good friend of mine who actually uses AI himself in different ways than I do. And I wanted to bring him in here. I want to have a conversation with you guys. I wanted to have a conversation with my friend. But here he is, ladies and gentlemen, my good pal, Mr. Nick Nimmin. Say hi to Nick for me, everybody. Hey, Nick.
What is going on, Daniel? Nice to see you here. What's up, battalions? Nice to see you guys. Hope everybody's doing absolutely fantastic today and excited to talk about AI, this whole new technology that we have here, laying in front of us that we are kind of traveling through time with, if we want to or not. This new thing that is just going to become a major part of our lives, if we like it or not. Excited to have this conversation today to talk about all of that related stuff.
For sure. And listen, my community is a bit of a mixed community because some of people know me from talking about YouTube channel growth strategies. And some of you guys know me from talking about editing videos to put onto YouTube. So if you don't know Nick, could you quickly, tell people who you are, what it is you do?
Sure. My name is Nick Nimmin. I am a content creator on YouTube that teaches other content creators how to thrive on YouTube. I've been doing this for 11 years now. So I've been a full-time content creator for about 9.5 years and just been an amazing journey when it comes to YouTube. There's so much opportunity here, so much impact that you can make here. And my whole mission is to help as many content creators as possible be able to achieve whatever it is they're trying to accomplish with their YouTube channel. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Well, I would not try to fit you in a nutshell, my friend, but that is a pretty good nutshell to be in. So Nick is one of the guys who was really one of the people I learned from. Nick and Brian G. Johnson were the two guys who really helped me to understand how to grow a YouTube channel, how to approach this whole thing of YouTube. And he's been a huge impact, not only on my world as a creator, but on a lot of people that I know who have tried to tackle YouTube and learn how to upload videos and get them on there and get them optimized and try to get them in front of people that you're trying to reach. So it was an interesting conversation to have talking about AI because I think there is this sort of back and forth emotions, Nick, where I think if I would try to distill it, I'll see if I can do it. And chat, feel free to jump in and tell me where I get this wrong. I think a lot of people like the idea of AI and they like the idea of it, as a tool to help creators. But there's this very distinct, but I kind of think of it as fuzzy line between using AI as a tool to help you create and then using AI to create for you. And there was a very clear delineation where people got really upset, like, we're tired of the word slop kept coming up. Ever heard that term slop before?
Absolutely. Yeah, the whole AI slop thing is definitely a kind of side effect that has happened with AI. And when it comes to the whole idea of AI slop, like, I get it. There is a lot of garbage out there, a lot of, just mass-produced stuff. But on the flip side of that, people have also kind of crossed the line in terms of what would identify as slop. And there's a lot of really good content out there that people have put together using AI that does get a great response. So, for example, I don't know, for everybody that was hanging out here and for Daniel, I don't know if you got to see when they had the Sasquatch vlogs come out and the Stormtrooper vlogs come out. Oh, they were amazing. So before that happened, my whole perception of, AI was also AI slop, all of that. And then I also was holding on to this human element aspect of, like, the first thing people default to is that people are always going to want the human element. And I believe that also still, but I think that they're going to be able to get it in different ways. And I think that the human element isn't always a requirement either. So when the Sasquatch vlogs came out and the Stormtrooper vlogs came out, to me, that was just a huge spotlight on the fact that a human doesn't have to be in the content. A human doesn't have to be the star of that YouTube channel in order for that channel to get lots of views, in order for that channel to get a following, in order for the people that do follow that channel to want to watch the next upload and to be anticipating that next upload. So when those particular pieces of content came out, or those channels came out about that, it really kind of updated my perspective on kind of what's in front of us when it comes to AI. And I definitely do have my concerns. But on the flip side of that, I think that we are also in a position to where we have one of the largest opportunities that we're probably going to have in our lifetimes to take advantage of this and be able to apply it to our own lives in ways that are going to make everything that we do easier. And it's going to also make it, I believe that it's also going to make it to where even if we might have challenges when it comes to technology or being able to produce the things that we would really love to produce, I think AI is going to make all of those things possible. And it already is for some people.
Well, one of the main reasons I wanted to have you here, and we're going to go down some rabbit holes, because everyone has very distinct opinions about it. Right, already in the chat, you can see there are people saying, I just want AI to scrub my video so I can edit faster and expertly modify the audio and color and add cool effects from things and put them. Is that too much to ask? Can you just do all the heavy lifting for me? And what's interesting is there are some different types of AI that's integrated into the software that I use every day, like DaVinci Resolve uses AI to remove backgrounds. In an AI magic mask, it uses it to detect what it is that you've said to create captions, not unlike the way the machine learning of YouTube does a very similar thing. You can actually enter scripts into DaVinci Resolve and start building timelines based on text level. So there's a lot of AI, like it does things like auto reframing. When I've got a 16:9 video and I want to change that into 9:16, it'll find what the target that you want to stay centered and follow it. That kind of similar to the way Opus Clip does a very similar thing. It can kind of target some of the person when it's trying to clip it down to a 9:16. So there's all these neat little ways that AI is helping us every day. And most of the people that I've talked to, the creators, don't have a problem with that. They're like, I'm okay with that. It's when it starts being used to create that it gets crazy. But one of the things I have to say really quickly, thank you for the $5 super chat. I really appreciate it. From Law Nerds Unite. Law Nerds Unite. There is a thing that you did. People have like to target what they call generative AI, right? That's been a big one where people say, I don't mind AI. I don't like generative AI. And by the way, tell us if our audio sounds good, Megan. Are we sounding fairly balanced out there? Is that a yes or a no? Let me know. If generative AI is, that kind of things where you use prompts to create things. And I think people get really freaked out when AI starts creating for a whole lot of reasons, right? I mean, because what is it drawing on? Is there copyright infringements? But you use generative AI to write code, and you make some pretty cool apps. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you use AI to code when you don't really have any coding experience? Am I correct on that, Nick?
You are 100% correct. So there's actually a few ways that I'm using AI right now. So I'm using AI for some automation stuff, and that's going to apply to the conversation about the code. So we'll get to that part here in a second. I'm also using AI when it comes to videos. So I have a video coming out on my channel this week that is about ways that you can use AI in your videos. And like one just example that I'm going to give is like in a video, depending on the type of content you make, of course, like let's say you have a vlog, and in that vlog, you're like, okay, I'm going to go from this particular spot in this amusement park to this particular spot in the amusement park. So I have the choice of making a hard cut here, or wait, man, wouldn't this be a great opportunity to really blow some people's minds that are watching this video and have something in there that they've never seen before? And what you can do is you can use tools like Runway ML, Kling. You can do it in Midjourney too, but you have to really upscale inside of Midjourney. But basically, you can use these tools that have a start and end frame option. And basically, at the very end frame of your video where you would want it to transition, you just take a screen cap of that, upload it as a starting frame, and then you do the same exact thing at the starting frame of the next one. That would be your end frame. And then you just prompt in whatever it is that you want to be in the middle. So the example that I have in the video that's coming out for this particular thing is if a tech channel is doing a camera review and I hold up the camera lens like this, and the camera just goes right into the lens, goes inside of the lens. There's like a whole little town happening inside of that lens. And then it goes through the door at the end of this little town. And then it reveals the camera lens like sitting on the desk. And you could use that in a bunch of creative ways based on, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish with your video. And I wanted to drop that in here just because I know you have a lot of video editors, in here as well. So, you can use it in really creative ways like that as well, to where it can just kind of build the bridge between different parts of your videos that you might have trouble, doing, or you just wanted to add that extra level of creativity to. But when it comes to the coding side, I'm using, so before AI came along, I do have experience with building web pages. I can tweak like a WordPress blog or a WordPress like CMS in order to kind of make it do, what it is that I want. So I have a little bit of experience on just like the front end, things like that. But when it comes to actually coding software and that kind of thing, I have zero experience with that. And then about, I would say a year, and I think it's been about a year and a month now, when I started going down this rabbit hole, I sat in front of a LLM. It was Claude, and I said, "Okay, I want to make an iOS app." And this is just
for people who may not be up on all the lingo. LLM is just a large language model. So think of your Chat GPTs, your OpenAI, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. And the version that I was using was Claude, because that one is really good for coding specifically. So I said, okay, like other people are making stuff with this, let me just kind of see what can happen. So I said, I want to make this keyboard app that will help me remember like repetitive comments or deploy repetitive comments. Because as a content creator, if you make videos and you get comments on your videos, there's a really good chance there's a lot of things that you say on a regular basis, to where instead of having to type it out all the time, it'd be great just to hit a button and then you're able to deploy that from your phone. And so I'd been wanting to make a good version of this, because there's other versions of it as well, but I've been wanting to make a good version of this for a long time. I just didn't have the technical know-how. So I reached out to coders and actual developers, and the price range that I got on this particular tool was between $10,000 and $12,000 for somebody to make this, and the general turnaround time was anywhere from 3 to 6 months for them to actually get this finished. Wow. So I sit down in front of Claude, and I explain exactly what it is that I want, and I tell it the tool that I'm building it in, which is Xcode, if you're on a Mac, and it gave me all the files for it. I copied the contents of those files, and then I pasted them into files that match the name and the file type inside of Xcode, and then I hit to start the app. So when I hit that, it showed me a preview of exactly what it was that I had in my mind, and it was like the bare bones base of it was complete. And I sat back and I said to myself, like, oh my God, I can't believe it just did that. Like, well, is this magic? Like, what's going on? So then I started, continuing on, and I started messing around with it. And then I started tweaking it. Okay, you now make it do this. Now make it do this. And then I kept going through that process. And then before you know it, over the course of, it took a couple of weeks, I had something that was almost finished. But unfortunately, because I didn't know what I was doing at the time, I got it to where it was almost finished. And then I ran into this problem to where with LLMs, large language models, when you're using them for coding, if you don't do the foundational things, then it can go off task and break everything. So what ended up happening is I got my app to where it was almost ready to make live, and I was making changes to it. And because I didn't know the foundational things about this sort of stuff, what ended up happening was it just completely ruined the app, and I had to start from scratch again because I didn't have the ability to recover. So from there, because I had that problem, I started researching using ChatGPT, saying, hey, I ran into this problem. Is there any way to fix this? And then ChatGPT started teaching me, about repositories and GitHub and things like that, which are essentially ways that you can store your code in different states, so that if you do run into those types of issues, you have a restore point. So just look at it as like a save point in a game, right? It's kind of like that. So through this process, I've been using Claude to build it. Plus, there's some other tools too, like Cursor, depending on what it is that I'm working on. And I use ChatGPT for brainstorming and advising. And then I use Claude and Claude Code and Cursor for the actual building of everything it is that I'm doing. But that's just the first app, and I've built tons of stuff since then.
Well, I love the fact that you're building apps now, because a lot of the apps you're building and a lot of the you're actually just released a browser plugin, browser extension that's great, that I'm using on Chrome, that actually is designed to help creators get focused, get streamlined, be able to do the things that they want to do on their channel a little bit easier, kind of open up your computer and get right into a workflow, including things like reminding you to take like some timeouts, time your work sessions, take a break. I like everything that's going on, but one of the things I have to quickly say, Eric, thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. I learned by writing and creating, but I need proofreader and another perspective to improve it. AI does that for me. Same thing. I do that a lot of
Great
times. I'll put something together and I'll be like, hey, can you just run through this and give me some thoughts on where you think, and I use it like a writing partner. It doesn't write for me, but I'll bounce ideas back and forth. I did a Christmas song last Christmas, and I was really having moments where I could not get the rhyming structure down. And I used ChatGPT to just bounce ideas off of, and I didn't use everything it said, but it would give me a word and I go, oh, it had an angle I hadn't thought of, and I used it in the song, and I'm like, let's tweak it again. I went back and forth, and it was literally like sitting with a person and talking through those things. But for you, let me see if I can actually share a screen. I am a huge fan of being able to reply to comments here on the channel. I'm a maniac about it. I try to reply to as many comments and videos as I can. And you actually built a tool that makes that easier for me. And it looks, let me see if we can get, I don't know, what's the best layout here? Do we have a layout? Yeah, here we go. This is just my phone. All right. Now, typically when I get comments, my comments come in like this, right? And it shows me the video in the upper right. And I will go to answer a comment, but a lot of the comments will have a question that I've been asked a million times. And people will ask me things like, well, what are your full system specs for your computer? Do you know how hard it is to sit there and to like stop and type and remember? It stops me from answering other questions. But you built an app that's on iPhone that when I open up my keyboard like this, you see down in that lower corner there, let me see if I have my zoom it on.
Yeah, down in the bottom left.
Yeah, I think I can do this. Here we go. If you look right here, do you see that little globe? Oh, it doesn't do it on this one. Sorry. But if there's a little globe down in the lower left there where my sort of mouse cursor is hanging out. When I click on that, it opens up Nick's app, and that app allows me to go through and find a whole bunch of already decided responses that I've sat and taken the time to write correctly once. And they'll have links to videos if someone has a specific question, if they want to know the recommended specs for DaVinci Resolve, if they want to know if something's a studio only feature, I can quickly click on that and it adds it right in. This is the single most useful tool that I have for being able to answer questions in the community quickly, just for that reason, because it just works really well and it allows you to build. If I actually go, it's actually in here. If I show that this is the actual app right here, then you can just sit there and you can build a response and you can say, what do you want the name of this response to be? Write your response, color code it, put links in there, and then save it to a folder. And then it's there so that every time I am back inside of my comment section on YouTube, I can reply quickly and easily and help more people. And that's the biggest goal for me. Being able to help more people is absolutely where it's at. And if I can do it more effectively, then I'm going to use any tool I can. And you were the only person who built something using AI, generative AI, to build that code to allow that to exist. So it wouldn't have existed without AI and generative AI and coding and the coding you learned. So there's a perfect example of where I think sometimes people say, it's when you use, these LLMs, large language models, to sort of, generate things that wouldn't have been there beforehand. I think it comes down to what it's generating. It's not that I hate generative AI. I hate how it's used. Does that make sense, Nick, in any way?
It does. It does, because just like with anything else, I think that, when we have all these amazing tools at our disposal, I think that there's always going to be, a certain, segment of people that are going to look at it and say, how can we abuse this in, the best way possible? And because of that, it creates situations where YouTube has to change their rules on, content that's being published, to their platform, in terms of when they, did their sweep before about, taking out, like all of the, kind of mass produced is the framing that they used, but the mass produced YouTube channels, taking those things out because of, this type of situation. So I think that, with anything that, it's those bad actors that kind of make people think that way, in terms of, we're competing against AI slop, or they get to, and I think this is going to come down to the person also, but like when it comes to tools, like coding related things, there's also the side of using things that also don't feel good, they don't work well, that kind of stuff. And people can start to associate slop with that as well. So because I'm into all of this, one of the areas of Reddit that I frequent is the developer subreddit, so that I can, learn more about that stuff. But also in the AI coding subreddits and all that. And with all of those, there's like a certain camp in there, just like there is with YouTube and calling, video AI slop. There's a certain camp in there that's like, pretty much their point of view is anything that you make with AI is going to be garbage. And the problem with that is, just like using AI when it comes to video or anything else, it's only going to be garbage if the person that's putting it together isn't thinking through what it is that they're offering. Just like on the video side, if you're not thinking through, like, okay, what is it I'm going to be making with this? How's it going to add value to others? Is this going to be like an entertainment piece? How's it going to capture attention? How's it going to stand out? If you're not going through all those processes, then you're probably going to make slop, right? Same exact thing works on the coding side, to where if you're not planning it out, you're not really thinking about it, not really thinking about the value that it brings to others, then in that case, you might end up with slop as well. But it's just a really interesting kind of crossover. And I think, as, because Daniel and I, you and I have both been on YouTube for quite some time. So, we have our, ways that we kind of perceive YouTube. Some of that is modern. Some of it is like, oh, I wish it was the YouTube of old, where we didn't have shorts every time we clicked on a feature and things like that. But at the end of the day, when these types of things happen, or, just like on the platforms when they introduce new features, we have to just kind of, grow along with them, even though there are going to be people that, do put out trash, in every capacity, but in defense of AI slop, there's also a lot of human slop out there too. And I think we should acknowledge that. And I think that when it comes to AI slop, when it comes to video specifically, that if we are threatened by AI slop, then it means that us as creators, that we need to level our stuff up a little bit too. Like if you see it as a threat, then we should probably, level up what we're doing as well when it comes to AI slop, not to attack anybody that, is
no, I think that's a big part of it. Like one of the reply, it was funny when I posted a very simple thing on my community tab saying, hey, if you're someone who hates AI, one thing that you may want to think about is that you're probably using AI a lot more than you even realize, because so much software, even people who are established coders, like we work with our pal, the Starkoviches, who built TubeBuddy, and they built new tools now. But they use AI, even though they know how to code, it's just so much faster. It's like, why wouldn't you use something that streamlined your workflow? So I think more people are using AI. There's every time you upload videos to YouTube, that's going to be using AI to put captions. It's going to use machine learning to put captions in there to listen to what's going on in the video. When it's going to be surfacing them in recommendation, it's going to use machine learning to, understand the viewers and what they've been watching on individual levels, and personalization. There's so much AI going on in the background when it comes to this platform that we're on, that I think it's really hard to say like, wow, this could be this. It's tough to just hate AI, but I have found that people hate that idea of slop, which is just bad content. But the reality is, like you said, like bad content existed before AI. And what's really interesting is, I've said to people, your channel is twice the size of mine. You're much closer to a million subscribers. I'm getting up just.
I don't know, man. The rate you're going, you might beat me there.
I'm trying to chase you.
Yeah, you're crushing. Congratulations on 500K, by the way.
I think we're there. Not quite there. I think we're about 2,500 away, but we'll hit it.
Yeah.
The thing that has been, like guys like us, when we get up to this level, we're in like the top 0.5% of all channels on YouTube. Like we're way up in this small bracket, having accomplished something that 99.5% of creators have not been able to accomplish. So one of the things that I really I try to remind people is, they're like, oh, these AI channels are taking over YouTube, and they're, it's a quick way to make a buck, and they're all becoming the biggest channels on YouTube. I'm telling you, there's only a handful of good AI channels that are actually dominating on YouTube, that actually have a strong presence and are in those upper brackets. Most of that junk or that slop that you see, I see it just like the other junk and slop that I see from creators who are making low effort content. I just swipe past it, whether it was AI generated or not. I'll go, nah, I'm not interested in this. But I think
another elephant in the room, Daniel, if you don't mind, is I think also when it comes to people looking at how AI increases the rate at which you can produce content, it's no different than what the faceless YouTube channel people were doing. Yes. So I worked with a channel. This was many years ago. I worked with a channel that got over 1 million subscribers in their first year, and it was a faceless YouTube channel. It was kind of like Brightside. It was kind of like that, but basically on that channel they hired an Indian manager. And then that Indian manager basically networked through India and found all the right people to do everything. And they ended up, creating script. They had, a script writer. They had a thumbnail person that was just cranking out thumbnails every day. They had multiple video editors, people looking at revisions, all that stuff. So they were doing all this stuff just at a human level, and they were able to produce content, mass produce content is what they were doing. And they're not the only game in town that was doing that particular thing, and they still do it. And there's a lot of other channels that also do that same exact thing. So the only major difference there is that it kind of brought down the barrier to entry to being able to do that. But here's the thing though. When it comes to mass producing or just producing anything, you have to be able to identify, and Dee and I talk about this a lot in our live streams, but you have to be able to identify what good is when you're putting stuff out, because just because something makes it on your behalf, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be good. So even if you are working with AI on the video side, you still have to be able to identify the output as good. So for example, I don't know if you know this or not, Daniel, but Dee started a TikTok account recently. He's been experimenting with the whole faceless, thing. And on his TikTok account, his first video got over 1 million views on it. Second video had like 800 and something thousand views. That first video is up to like 1.8 now, I think. Second video had like 800 and something thousand views, but it's over 1 million now. Third video had, I think, like 900 and something thousand views on it. And like every single video on the account, he's got either 1 million views or just somewhere in like the 500 plus K views.
Okay, well, stay there for a second. But
because Dee knows what good is. He knows what good is.
It's not because he's using not his face isn't in it. It's he knows how to build.
Yes. He knows how to build, and he understands the nuance of making content. So for example, the voice he uses, he spent a week just tweaking the voice, just getting the voice right. And you're into audio. So, like, for example, he'd be like, I don't know, it's just this particular one, it was like clipping a little bit much. And then like, when it would say certain things, just like the emphasis wasn't in the right place and blah, blah. But he spent like a week just getting the voice together. But once he got it together, started getting the assets together and all that stuff, he was able to put it together and make content that's good and is responded to as, good content. So even with all of the, AI tools, you still have to work on those skill sets, because as of right now, the tools can't make something entertaining for you if you don't know how to deliver entertainment, right? Is kind of the message I'm trying to get to with that.
Yeah, and what's funny here is I agree with a lot of people in the community who said to me, AI can make it easy to start making that slop or that junk, or more offensive in my particular point of view, is it makes it easier to start ripping other people off. Because people have said to me, like, well, there's a copyright issue they talk about, like, well, AI is pulling things from other people and not giving them credit. Sure. Forget about that. I'm not going to forget about that. That's important. But also, do you know how many times I've found channels that have taken my video, they've modified it slightly, but pretty much it's the same video. They've taken everything I've said, they've run it through an AI voice generator, changed my voice, and even put it into another language and re-uploaded the video on their own channels, right? That is a perfect example of someone using AI to steal content from a content creator. And when I do find them, I take those channels down hard. I have Brothers mentality of scorched earth. I wait till
Yeah.
I wait till they still steal 3 because 3 strikes will have the channel taken down. If I see 2, I'll wait. You keep stealing away. If you go one more time, I'm coming after you hard. But in a ironic twist of fate, the reason I know about those channels is because YouTube's copyright matching tool inside of YouTube Studio is using machine learning and AI to detect those similarities, finding it and giving me a notification inside of Studio saying, hey, we found this video and it's either 100% match or an 80% match, and it'll bring it to my attention. It's up to me to review it and make sure, in fact, that it was correct, because you don't want to be trying to take down videos that maybe YouTube got it wrong. But the reason I can find out about this stuff is the very same AI YouTube is using to make sure that they're protecting our identity, protecting our content, protecting our copyrights. And once they found it, you can even, there's a section in the copyright section that you can like tick a box and say, like, make sure no more further copies of this start emerging. You sort of put your foot down and say, this is definitely mine. If you catch more, let me know. So it's a double-edged sword. Is that, good?
It is. It's definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a double-edged sword. And I think that those types of challenges are going to get more difficult because, just like with everything else, I think as this technology continues to go, I know that there's already, all of these companies already working on like digital fingerprinting stuff. Some of them are already like applying it. But the downside of that is, just like in the past, as those types of measures are put in place, then there's going to be somebody that makes something that's going to remove those digital fingerprints and all that stuff to make it to where you're not going to be able to tell. So, I think this is going to be just kind of like a series of whack-a-mole situations to where, they're going to be like, hey, we fixed it. And then, no, you didn't. And then, oh, we fixed it. No, you didn't. So I think we're going to be dealing with that for a while. And in addition to that, I think that there is one big major problem with the AI content kind of flooding YouTube right now, really all the platforms. And I think that problem is that there is a finite amount of impressions that happen on YouTube every day. So, there's only a certain amount of people. It's a staggering amount of people, but there's a certain amount of people that log into YouTube every day. There's a certain amount of videos that those people have time to watch. And there's a certain amount of recommendations that YouTube can give. And I think the real threat when it comes to content creators and the challenge for YouTube is that when it's getting flooded with all this content, that content might take up impressions that would go to real creators or creators that are making like good quality content. So that content might not rise to the top, but they still have to test it against people. So when they're testing it against people to see if it's good, that's where, if you have, where previously you didn't have any of this, now you have, possibly thousands of videos per day that are showing up, then in that particular case, it's thousands of impressions per day that are not going out to, creators that should be, getting those impressions on their videos. Yeah, so that's the one like core thing that I really don't like about that. But when it comes to AI as itself, though, I think that it's amazing that we have these tools that we can use in an expressive manner. If it's coding and building stuff, if it's using the video tools, if it's using ChatGPT to just kind of work out those ideas like you were talking about with your Christmas song, where you're just like working out those ideas to try to get something, finished and make it even better. I think those types of use cases are absolutely fantastic for AI right now.
Yeah, I think I keep finding myself here, Nick. There's beyond just the things we're talking about. There are these sort of other concerns that come up, like the environmental impacts, like the data centers that they're building, so that they can, like Facebook and Google and even Amazon are building to use AI in so many different ways, are massive, right? And they are putting a massive strain on the United States electric grid. And that means that people, when you put strain on a grid, that means that when people go to buy electricity, it's not usually the cost of electricity that's the most of it. The thing that makes electric prices go up is the delivery. And when you have to try to deliver electricity when the system is stuffed full, that means it's going to cost the average person more for electricity. These massive data centers also use a lot of water to, cool down these systems, because it's these giant processors. So they're using water to cool things down. And then that wastewater. So now they're using a lot of water from the area, and they're building them in places that might have, water issues. that don't have a lot of natural water resources, and they already have drought situations. And then they got problems with pollution where they're getting rid of the water that might have some of the biocides and things in it and heavy metals from cooling down these data centers. So I find myself in this other weird situation where environmentally, I almost feel like, do I hate AI because of the environmental impact? I feel like my personal opinion, I'd love to have your opinion, is like, I think of it more like, I love Harley Davidsons and vintage, American muscle cars. They run on gas. They run on fossil fuels. My heating system runs on fossil fuels. I've got a forced hot air system that runs on propane. So these are the things that heat my house, that allow me to drive. When Nick and I see each other, when we end up at like a conference or something, we've both boarded planes that use jet fuel so that they can take us from, he's in Thailand, I'm in New England. So when we end up in Dallas or California, we have got on planes that allow us to get together. So I feel like, do I hate the plane? Do I hate the car? Do I hate my Harley Davidson? Or do I sometimes hate the environmental impacts of maybe U.S. oil that's fracking, and maybe they're starting to disrupt, and it leaves a big footprint? I feel like I don't want to hate cars because they're fossil fuels. I might have a problem with the way fossil fuels are impacting our environment, and we should work towards making that maybe better, or moving away from fossil fuels. We have, people like Tesla building electric cars, and those are becoming more predominant, but you still have to put all the charging stations in across countries. And I don't know, it's like, what are your thoughts? I mean, do you think sometimes that AI gets a bad rap because of the other things that come along with it, and the companies that are really capitalizing on AI might be doing some third-party external transitive property damage along the way, trying to capitalize on AI?
I think that absolutely. The reasons that I think people have trouble with AI are, first, because of the environmental stuff. If people, for the people that are concerned with all of that. Second is that I think that people do see it as a threat, in terms of, this is, in the reality, it is already taking jobs from people. So I think that it is seen as a threat. Three, it's new, and some people, like I have close personal friends of mine that were anti-AI, and I'm not using that, it's garbage, blah, blah, it's not human, and this, that, and the other thing. All it is math, and so on and so forth. But then recently they've turned around and be like, oh my God, this is just absolutely incredible. I should have hopped on this like 2 years ago when you were mentioning this stuff. So in terms of, that sort of thing, I think it being new is also a problem. When it comes to the environmental stuff, and the copyright stuff too, let's talk about that real quick. Yeah, absolutely. I think that sucks. However, I think that is going to be a short-term loss for a long-term gain for humanity, in terms of, what will end up coming out of the back end, because I think regulations will get put into place. I don't think it's going to be a free-for-all forever. It's just that right now, just like with everything else in government, it takes forever for them to, get everything in place that they need to do for everything. And the internet was kind of this way before too. Like, for those of you that are old enough to remember, you used to go into AOL chat rooms, and you could just sit there and spam it all day long. And like, they didn't even have the ability to like ban people, right? Yeah. It was like a totally different world. So I think that, yeah, and a lot of that was also just because laws weren't in place, and just nobody has dealt with those problems before, so they just didn't know how to handle them. And I think that, with some of these problems are going to get they're going to get dealt with in that particular way. Like, when things catch up, then laws will be put in place, regulations, because they're going to have to. Like, Dee and I, we had coffee earlier today, and during that conversation, we were talking about just how everything is looking so real now. It wasn't long ago to where we're like, hey, right around the corner, it's coming soon, everything's going to look real. And now things are starting to look real. And we're like, and that's for us. And we're pixel peeping, where we're looking for the details. Like, imagine somebody like my mom, for example, right? Who's like older, like, she doesn't stand a chance in terms of knowing, what's real and what isn't. So I think that when it comes to regulation, I think they're going to have to make it like a real crime to not mark something as AI. So like right now we have the option on YouTube to say, okay, check this box, if it's AI generated. And if you don't check it, nothing happens. Right. Yeah. So I think that in the future, in order to make that actually mean something, I think they're going to have to put laws in place, because if not, then, you're going to be able to make videos of anybody doing anything. So in the public systems, you won't, because those will have guardrails on them. But in terms of private systems, like right now, I can get another Mac Studio and I can put an LLM on that Mac Studio and have my own self-contained AI with no rules attached to it. So because of that, people, can also do that with content. So I think people are going to be just cranking out stuff. They already are. That isn't even remotely real, putting people into situations that they would never be in. And I think that they're going to have to make that a crime. If not, I don't know where this is going to go, but I think that they're going to have to make that like a real crime to do those types of things. And on the environmental impact, I believe that's where, if you have problems with that, call your congressman and then let it go. Because, there's like, unless you're going to be out there picketing, then, you can, have concerns with that type of thing, but, take the action that you can take, which is, talking to your congressman or sending emails or whatever. And then from there, let it go and focus on, things that you do have control over, which is, am I going to use this to my advantage? Or am I going to not use this to my advantage? And then just make that call.
Yeah. I think that I agree with you on that there's a certain amount of, listen, there's always going to be, whenever there's anything new, even the internet itself. Remember how people lost their minds when the internet started? Never mind
the fad of the internet. Yeah.
The fad, right? That it became, people were very scared and, oh my gosh, and it's going to, all these horrible things are going to happen. I think there's always going to be the bad with the good and the good with the bad. And I think that, I know that you and I sort of share this idea, at least with AI, that there's so many good things and positive things that creators can do with it that they may not even know about. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that. That I think that as long as you're being positive in the way that you're using AI, whether you're using it to do simple things, like a lot of people always asking me, like, could you please do a thumbnail tutorial? And I use all different things to make a thumbnail. I'll use part AI, where I'll have a picture I took of me, and I might use AI to sort of give it a little bit of hyper realism. And then with backgrounds, I used to use like a stock Adobe, I still have, subscriptions to them, but a lot of times trying to find that one background, I could be searching through stock Adobe for an hour and a half. And I'm like, I just need it to be a paint splatter and a swirl that's 3D and it kind of has a circular pattern. That's what I need. I can't find it, but I can go to ChatGPT and tell it exactly what I want, build it, and use it as a starting background layer that I'm going to build off of. So I'm always layering it in, and using it in conjunction with how I create originally, as well as using the tools that just save me a bunch of time. I don't want to sit and manually rotoscope out stuff where I have to remove a background. I want to click a button and go, background's gone, right? Instant magic mask, DaVinci Resolve, right? You did a very cool video. And now you're going to have to remind me, it's been a minute. I think you were using maybe Photoshop to do the generative fill, where you had a very narrow picture and you said you literally created a studio around yourself. Could you explain, like, that was a great example of using generative AI to do something that could save you money. You weren't hurting anybody. You weren't like stealing anybody's studio. You were just taking a small room and going, I'm going to totally change the look of where it seems like I'm doing this video from.
Yeah. So with that particular video, it's hard to imagine that was 2 years ago, that particular video. Yeah, goes fast. So basically that particular video, I was demonstrating Photoshop's generative capabilities at that time. And all I did was it was actually in this setup right here, is I took a screenshot of this, and then I drop that into Photoshop, and I keep the aspect ratio the same, 16:9 aspect ratio, but I keep expanding the canvas. And then from there, I take the marquee tool, and then I have a line that goes just right around, the frame. And then it will generate what's outside of the frame. So the transparent pixels, it will generate on that. So in that particular video, the examples that I was giving was I put one to where I was in some like technological, some like super high tech looking thing. I did another one where, I had like an ocean view, like looking out of the back. I had other ones where I just put like elements, around the screen and stuff like that. But during that particular video, like I zoomed out like a nice handful of times, and then, kind of zoomed back into it. And it just made like a really cool, effect on that particular video. But the real message there was that if you're recording in a particular location and you're like, hey, I want to, just kind of change things up a little bit, make it seem a little bit different, you have the ability to do that now, inside of Photoshop with their generative AI. And even with that, you can do that inside of their Firefly also. And I'm going to guess, I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to guess Canva's probably hopped on there somewhere as well, because they're usually pretty good about following that kind of stuff up. But yeah, those types of opportunities are also huge. And we also have Nano Banana now, which is absolutely insane when it comes to thumbnails. Like, watch my video on that on my channel if you haven't yet. It is absolutely incredible what you can do inside of Nano Banana, especially if you're trying to make B-roll and you're like, hey, I was out, making videos and I forgot to get this particular shot. You can just have Nano Banana do it for you. Like, you upload your original image, and then you tell it what it is that you need, a different angle or whatever the thing is for that second shot, and it'll just make it for you. And you can take that, you can load that into Runway or into Google VO, and you can say, hey, have this hand putting a key into a door lock, and then it'll just make it. It'll look in the same style, the same everything about it, and a viewer's not going to be able to tell the difference. So the opportunities that you have in terms of just using this stuff to not just for efficiency, which is also amazing, but also for, just kind of filling in those blanks to where, we're humans, so we're not AI. So sometimes we forget stuff. So, to make stuff look cooler, to add, just things that might be a little bit different to separate you from other people that aren't using these tools yet. And for, for doing some really cool, things with like thumbnails and just B-roll. And Garrett right here says, AI B-roll. I don't know, man. Yeah, the thing is right now it seems kind of crazy, but if you go into like Midjourney, for example, and inside of Midjourney, you spend some time on your prompt, right? So you can make it look like a nice, realistic looking image. Then in that case, the output of Midjourney, you can upscale it to 4K. Then when you upscale it to 4K, then you drop that into like Runway ML, or you drop it into Kling. And then you tell it what it is that you want that image to be doing in terms of the video output that you want. And it'll make you a clip of up to 8 seconds. And some of them you get up to 10 seconds, but it'll make that clip for you. And it's going to look just as good, and in some cases better than the B-roll that you might have actually shot for it yourself, depending on what it is, of course.
Yeah, and I totally hear, Garrett. I hear you when you go AI B-roll, and I think a lot of that that reaction sometimes comes from the fact that where AI is right now, I think, I've said this all along, don't worry too much about AI becoming so real that you'll never tell the difference in all situations, because I honestly feel in my heart of hearts that viewers become more savvy. Like, when you first saw Jurassic Park, you were like, oh my God, those dinosaurs look real. Now I see it and I'm like, that's Jurassic Park. I could spot a Steven Spielberg, Industrial Light and Magic Lucas, when they start doing
same with the old Terminator movies. Yeah, at the time, it's like, wow, this is incredible. It's never getting any better than this. And then now it's like, wow, that was like super janky. Yeah,
I made my girlfriend and my son sit down and watch Halloween, the original Halloween movie, with me a couple of years ago. This is a great classic. And watching it in retrospect, you go, it really isn't all that scary, and it's kind of slow paced, and the story doesn't hold up great, because we've seen so many movies that we're so much more savvy as viewers. So keep that in mind. But I want to springboard off what you said about like the B-roll. Think about this. There's a channel, it's called Greg Edits Video. And Greg is the guy who edits for like Ed Lawrence from Film Booth. And he had a video out just the other day where he was talking about how he uses AI in DaVinci Resolve. And one of the things that DaVinci Resolve has that I've showed people in the community, you can take your audio track and you can use AI voice convert and turn it into, I think they have 4 basic models right now, 2 different male voices and 2 different female voices, and you can tweak them a bit. But you can also train the AI. And it's very clear about, you have to make sure that you have the rights to use it. You accept that, that you're only going to load voices in that you have the rights to use, which, like you said, it's a bit of an honor system right now. What happens if you don't? But what Greg was doing is, like, Ed was calling him and saying, I flubbed that line. Like, I said the wrong thing. I said the wrong number. I need you to replace that line. And what Greg does is he takes a bunch of Ed's vocal, loads it into DaVinci Resolve because he has permission. He's his editor, trains it on Ed's voice, and then he says the line himself with the correct number and drops that in along with the video clip. Now, he was talking about, I have to make sure I pan away from Ed's face because you'll see his lips are saying one thing and the voice is saying another. But when I tell you, you would never know. And I know Ed pretty well. And this sounds this so much like Ed for that short amount of time, maybe not entire video. But when you think about things like, well, why would I use that AI voice thing? Here's a perfect way, right? Ed doesn't have time to go, I got to set up my camera. I got to film again. I got to try to get that exact same shot for 1 or 2 lines when I can just say to my editor, change my line. That's what one of the crazy things that AI can do that I think is a huge positive. And that is absolutely, generative AI. It's creating a voice using the AI modeling and being trained on someone's voice. But sometimes I think that, like with D, you said he was making a voice to go with these TikToks that he's making. I think people automatically assume that's going to be always done in a bad, cheesy, negative, or awful way. But I keep seeing all the positive use cases that allow great creators like Ed Lawrence to make more great content that helps YouTube creators out there grow their channels faster. So that's like a huge win for me.
So I think we should talk about avatars too.
All right.
So have you experimented at all with HeyGen and their avatars?
I have not.
So I have 2 avatars in HeyGen, and I'm going to start deploying them soon. So basically, HeyGen, their whole service is around like lip syncing. So some people will use it to where, like, let's say you wanted to translate your videos into Spanish. Then you could upload your videos to HeyGen, and then it will do your voice in Spanish, and it'll sound exactly like you, and it'll morph your mouth to where your mouth is in Spanish also, so that if a Spanish speaker sees that video, then everything is exactly like it would be if you were speaking Spanish, which is pretty incredible. But they also have a part of their service is called AI avatars. And with these, you are able to train it on 2 minutes of video, and the output is absolutely going to blow your mind. So this scene that you're looking at right now, I'm not real. No, I'm just kidding. I just, for people watching, I just wanted to go, oh my God, for a second. Okay. But seriously though, for the AI avatar stuff, like, it does look this good. So it takes your original footage, and then it will, speak like you and all of these things. So people are using these to make like short form content too. So there's a girl, I can't remember her name, a lady, I can't remember her name, but she's on TikTok, and she was using one of these avatars, and her avatar was outperforming her videos of her.
Wow.
On that account. So in terms of like for those of us that are into her content, she's like, anytime you see the avatar with like a purple hat, that's my avatar. If you don't see the purple hat, then it's me. And in those purple hat videos, yeah, she way outperformed herself by millions of views. So in terms of people responding to that, the way that people are using these are, one, let's say in the example like you were talking about, Daniel, where the person that you're editing videos for the editors in the house, if you do editing as a service. So the people that you're editing videos for, you could have them make an avatar for your stuff. And then basically, if you needed, just have them give you that 2-minute video that you could train a service on in HeyGen. And then if you needed that footage of them saying something, you could literally type it in, and then they could just say that clip. So for example, if we were talking right now and I'm like, hey, I'm going to show you, all these, cool AI tools. I'm going to show you 3 different AI tools, and we're starting right now. Then one of the things that I could do if I was like, what, I'm actually going to show them 5, is instead of having to redo all of that, I could go into the avatar and just have the avatar say that particular part, do a zoom on it as I'm saying it, just to kind of, blend it, a little bit. And you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the original footage and the avatar footage while I was saying that particular line. People are making like entire pieces of content doing this, like tutorials and stuff. But you can also use it to fix things like that for your clients, for those of you that are doing editing work, especially if it's somebody like Daniel or somebody like myself, where we are always recording, or most of the time recording in very similar locations. Then you can use that avatar to be able to fill in the blanks when it comes to some of that stuff too, so your clients don't have to do retakes ever again.
Which is, and I think that's another thing that I don't think people jump to that automatically. When you say like, oh, you're going to generate an AI Nick, I don't know about that. But if you're editing for Nick, and Nick's trying to get content out, and the majority of his video is him, and he's just trying to polish the edges or let his editor do it without holding up his production schedule, because there's people out there. Listen, same with me. When I make content, there are people who are like, I'm so glad you made this video, but where was it 2 weeks ago or 2 years ago? Because I've been struggling with this one thing for forever. I wish you'd had this out earlier. So getting content out that can help people is important. Now with me, I only use AI when in a video when I'm showing an AI tool off. I don't typically change my voice unless I'm showing there's a voice convert feature. But I think it's an important thing to have in there for editors who have to work with creators, because I also get a lot of people on my channel say, like, I'm an editor and I'd love to work with creators. I don't know how to make that start happening. I try to give them advice about, putting together a portfolio, spending time really learning how to, different styles of editing on YouTube. Pay attention to what you think you like, or the kind of styles you think you'd be good at editing, and trying to pay attention to how they're moving the footage along, how they're editing the audio, how it sounds, how it looks, how the transitions, the way they're, all of those things. And you can learn that way. But the tools that I think are available are amazing. Now, the one thing that you said was interesting, the ability to have the lips actually follow along with the dubbed language. That's something YouTube's actually working on right now. I was out in New York City for Made on YouTube in New York City this couple months ago, and they showed that feature where it is they're doing the AI auto dubbing, which I turn on. Now here's another example. I turn on AI auto dubbing on my channel because I have enough people in the community who are global members, and they say, could you please put on AI auto dubbing in Hindi? And the only reason I know they're asking that is because I'm seeing the comment in a different language, and I hit translate inside of YouTube. It'll translate the comment and I can read it, right? It translates it for me, which is awesome. Another great use of, machine learning. But I leave that on, but there are these very few use cases where you'll have someone who's bilingual, and maybe they live in some country where the predominant language is one language, and they start getting served my videos that are dubbed, and they have to go and like turn the dubbing off one video at a time because there's no global shut this AI auto dubbing off. And I get these same comments that are like, please turn that off. It's really annoying. I want to hear your voice, not the dubbed voice. And it's like, that's one of those things where I don't think the AI dubbing is the problem. I think the problem is YouTube needs to give viewers the feature to go, I don't want anything dubbed, and have a button in their settings to go on or off. I want everything served to me in this language if they are one of those bilingual people.
Yeah, I think they should do that with AI content just in general, because I think that some people are not going to want to just watch, because they'll feel like they're not giving it to, giving that attention, so to speak, to another human. I mean, not really. People watch cartoons, they watch Pixar, they watch other, animated stuff. So I don't know if they're really going to feel that way. But if so, then they would have the option to, to turn that off. So if you want to, just for fun, I don't know if the audio is going to come through or not, but we can try. I can actually, I opened up my HeyGen, and I can show you what these things look like.
Yeah, see if you can share that over there. See if it works.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I have no relationship with HeyGen, like whatsoever. I just got to make that clear because it's what we got to do these days. So let me go to HeyGen and avatars. Let me make sure there's nothing. Okay. Right. So I just shared it. And okay, there we go. So yeah, so basically these are the AI avatars. Now keep in mind the voice for this, if I was actually making these, because their voice part isn't perfect yet. But if I was actually making these, then I would remove the voice. I would actually take the voice so that the mouth matches, and I would run it through 11 labs because I've trained 11 labs on my voice also. But this is completely fake. I did not record what you're getting ready to see. This is 100% AI generated. And I'm curious. Let me make sure it's not muted. So let's just see if it comes through here.
Hey, Nick Nimmin, your hyper-realistic avatar is ready. Try creating videos with it. Also, click the feedback button to share what you think. Hope you enjoy. Hey, Nick Nimmin.
The audio is weird, right? That was 6 months ago. 6 months ago. This is one that I did, and I broke all the rules because they tell you when you're doing it to not move around too much. And in this one, my hands are all over the place and everything. But this is a version that I did last week.
Hey, Nick Nimmin, your digital twin is ready. Try creating videos with it. Also, click the feedback button to share what you think. Hope you enjoy. Hola, Nick Nimmin. Tu digital twin está listo. Intenta crear videos con él. Además, haz clic en el botón de comentarios para compartir lo que piensas.
Crazy, right?
Wow.
So of course, there's some little things like, for example, let's see if I can take that down there. Yeah, we can take that down, Daniel. But basically, I just wanted to show you guys that because, when it comes to this, there are little nuances of it that are, it's not perfect, But if I train it better and I put up, because like I said, on that most recent one, I broke the rules. I even had some like jump cuts in there too. I'm just like, let's see what it'll do, because I'm kind of stress testing this stuff for a video that I'm making.
Right.
And with that, still, even in that situation, it came out okay. And it looks exactly like my studio looks. And it looks exactly like I look. And it does sound fake when it comes to my voice. It's not exactly my voice, as I'm sure you could hear the difference. But I have trained 11 Labs, which is a place where you can just go and generate voices and things like that. And I trained 11 Labs on my voice, and it sounds almost exactly like me. So because of that, if I was going to use those avatars, I would just rip the audio from that, drop it to 11 Labs, say change it to this, or in DaVinci Resolve, if you can do that in DaVinci now, and then have it change the voice and then just load it right back into the video. So I guess from a DaVinci Resolve workflow, you could just do all that inside of DaVinci, to where you download it, right? You would just download it out of HeyGen, and then inside of DaVinci, you would just say change that voice to whatever my trained voice is. Is that correct?
You can, yes, you can, but I do not know how many languages it recognizes currently.
But even if it was just your native language, then it would be able to do that, right?
Yeah. If it's got a better train, I can put it in there. It'll put it into because you can train the AI to be your voice.
And so workflow wise, it's probably more a smoother way to do it then. Yeah.
So, but one of the things is exactly like, right off the bat, this is one of the things that, and I got to say hi to Beanie. Good to see you, pal. He said, nah, that voice is still off. You're right. I know Nick very well. Beanie, you know Nick very well. We've heard Nick talk on countless videos in person when we've hung out. So we know his voice. We're going to be able to tell the difference. And I don't think that Nick is saying we're there yet. It's getting ahead of the curve. So the better it gets, then the easier it is to drop it in. I will tell you the one that I told you about, Greg Edits videos, when he dropped Ed Lawrence's voice in for just a line, you couldn't tell the difference. It sounded just like Ed.
Yeah.
It was really well trained. But here's another thing. I think that's one of the things, perspective on the whole idea of AI is really interesting. I use DaVinci Resolve's, one of their features they have in the studio version, Nick, is it's called an AI audio assistant. And let's say you have a track that's like a couple of people speaking, maybe you've got music underneath, you've got some sound effects going on, and all the levels are all over the place. You haven't done any EQing or any kind of, setting up your audio mix. You can literally click a button and it goes through your whole mix, and it changes all the color coding for the different audio tracks based on type. It'll change the dialogue tracks to one color. It'll change the music tracks to another, the sound effects tracks to another. And then it starts applying multi-band compression, limiting, leveling, EQ, and it goes through all of this heavy lifting. And then you set the targets. Like you said, well, this is going to go onto YouTube. It'll make sure that the entire mix is targeted for between a -3 to -1 dB level and a -14 lufs level. So it's optimized, so it's not getting hit with all kinds of compression on when you upload it to YouTube. It does all of, I showed that as a feature. And there were some people who said the music level was too loud.
Of course.
I sat back and I went, okay, look at all the things it just did, right? I didn't, and all they heard was, well, it's mixing the levels. And I'm going, but it like color coded the tracks. It separated them. It hit all the targets. It put on multi-band compression. It put on de-essers on my voice because I was a little SE. It did all of these things. It was like in seconds. So if I have to go over and go, I would prefer the music to be down a little and slide the fader down. I'm like, how much time did that just save me? How long? How much time would that have taken me to get even the foundation of an audio mix? It's not called AI audio producer. It's AI audio assistant, right? To kind of help you do some of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I think that as a content creator, I think one, like you mentioned before, like taking the finesse, right? Like, so for example, with those avatars. So for the video that I'm working on, like there'll be a perfect avatar for that one, and it'll look right and it'll sound right, and I'm just gonna have it just pop up in different places in that particular video, and you're not going to know the difference. But basically with that, and just like you're talking about with the music situation, right? Like it's going to do all the work, and then I'm still going to have to make some minor adjustments to it, cut it right, things like that in order to make it work. Just like the start frame and end frame thing that I was talking about before, the demo that I have for that one, or one of the demos, I did have to do this like little kind of like bubble type of wipe thing that kind of happens to it, and I added a sound effect to make it seem intentional. But basically that was just to smooth over a little part, and then at the very end of that I had to do like this little fade in order to make sure that the minor color transition wasn't noticeable and things like that. So, you know, we still got to fine tune these things for now, you know, but I think that as content creators, embracing all these tools for our workflow and for, you know, making stuff for our audiences is also important. You know, like we were talking before about coding. And in addition to using AI for coding and for making videos, you can use it, you know, like Daniel and I, you know, we're teachers essentially, right? Based on what it is that we do. So we can use it to come up with different ways to explain things that might resonate easier. We can run our ideas through it just like you can. We can run our ideas through it to say like, okay, do we need to, you know, make this information a little bit more accessible, or do we need to say it in a certain way? It's going to make it a little bit more accessible to more people, things like that. And, you know, using it to better connect with the people that you're trying to reach is great. Other things, if you don't know anything about like making content, then, you know, using it to be like, okay, this is the type of content I make, and you know, this is how often I can publish. These are the types of videos that I can publish. Could you just give me an idea for what a content strategy would look like if my goal is fill in the blank, right? And then you can use it as just kind of like a rough idea of a direction to head, right? So it doesn't have to necessarily be the be all end all. It's just to, you know, get you heading in the right direction in some cases. And when it comes to, you know, making stuff for your viewers, you know, you can also, you know, just get really creative in terms of like, okay, so I'm in front of people that are interested in these things. Like, you know, like here, you know, like in Daniel's case, if he wanted to, you know, he could go through the process of making plugins and, you know, things like that for DaVinci Resolve. If he wanted to, it would take time, but he could do it. But, you know, like, you know, depending on, you know, your audience, for everybody watching this, depending on who it is that you're reaching, you know, there might be something really amazing that you could create for the people that are interacting with your content using these tools that are available to you. And you might be able to do it rather quickly. Because one thing that I can tell you is that when I started messing with this stuff on the AI coding side a little bit more than a year ago, the advances in terms of how many times you have to prompt something to get the result that you're wanting, the advantage are the progress that has been made in accuracy is astonishing. And that's just happened through a handful of different models that have been updated, you know, since then and now. So the speed that all this stuff is getting better and getting easier to do is just completely off the charts. It was one of the OpenAI guys, and I know that the tech guys always try to hype everything up, you know, quite a bit, you know, so they can get the investment money and all that. But one of them mentioned, I think they said by the end of 2026, if I remember this correctly, by the end of 2026, the average person is going to be able to code their own video game, was the promise that they put out. So if that is real, which I kind of believe already, because right now you can go into Claude, just the desktop version, and you can give ideas for basic video games and it will code it right there for you, and you can play it right there in your browser. Things like Pac-Man and, you know, Pong and, you know, like those types of games, like it can do all that stuff right now already. So, you know, embracing this stuff now and just learning about it is super important. If you do want to build stuff for your audience, if you don't mind me, Daniel, just kind of mentioning just kind of a lead.
Oh, please do.
On a direction. Okay. So if you want to build stuff using like the AI tools on the coding side, Cursor is a great first step to get into it. You need to learn about repositories and GitHubs, because or in GitHub and, you know, repositories, depending on the software you're using and everything, because that's going to save you in case, you know, something goes, something goes off the rails. So you got to learn the bare bones basics of that. There is a software, or not software, but a web service called a diff checker, and you can use any of them. But basically what it does is it shows you the version that you're getting ready to change and the version that has been changed, so you can actually look for the changes that have been made. And over time, you'll start to be able to identify stuff and use ChatGPT and these other services to kind of train you up to date on the bare bones, you know, basics of stuff. But if you're on a Mac, you can build apps with Xcode. It's a requirement. Same with browser extensions. Anything you build with Mac, you're going to have to do it through Xcode to actually publish it. But when it comes to browser extensions, you can build those inside of Cursor. Really easy to submit to the Google Chrome store. You can use Claude.ai. You can use ChatGPT, which I don't recommend that one for actually coding, but you can if you want. Use Five if you're going to be doing that. And Gemini is actually pretty good at coding as well. But Claude and Gemini are kind of the winners when it comes to coding. and yeah, and just experiment. And when you start building it, don't expect it to be like super easy. It is, but don't expect it to be easy, because then your expectations are going to be up here. And when you run into trouble, you're going to be like, oh, this is supposed to be easy. And you're going to, like, close out of the whole thing. So expect it to be challenging, and expect it to where you need to be motivated a little bit in order to, be able to do it and learn the things you're going to have to learn. But you absolutely can do this stuff. Like Daniel mentioned, I've built 2 apps that are public right now. That with both of those apps, like I had no idea what I was doing when I started, building these. And now I have 2 apps that are public. One of them, the creator keyboard that we mentioned earlier, is free. It has like a little paid, upgrade in it, like a one-time thing. The other one has a free trial, and then it flips over to paid from that one. And I have users for both. I have 2 apps that I haven't even published yet that I use, just for my own sake. And you can do that kind of stuff too, where you don't have to publish it if you don't want to. I have multiple browser extensions that I built, but only 2 of those are public. So like you can do this stuff. It takes time, and you got to think things through. But you can use this as an additional way to monetize, because the old ways to monetize content are typically through crowdfunding and email lists, newsletters, that type of stuff, where you can do affiliate marketing or sponsorships through those. Sponsorships, affiliate marketing, and crowdfunding, and then on-platform revenue. With this, it opens you up to like a whole new opportunity that a lot of people in your niche probably aren't doing. And if you can be one of the first people in there figuring this stuff out, then by the time everybody else catches up, you're going to have some stuff out that people are using, and you're going to be way ahead of them, as long as you're, actively trying to bring awareness to it. So if it's something that if you've had that thing in your mind to where it's like, man, I've either always wanted to build this for myself, or you're like, man, I bet if I could make something like this, my audience would just go bonkers over this, then, you have the opportunity to do it now. Those limitations have completely evaporated.
Well, I think, there's that's a big part of it, right? The walls that have been knocked down because of AI, and the things that allow creators to create. It's funny when you said, that's going to allow you to monetize easier. I want to make sure that everyone understands it. Nick isn't saying like use AI, and that way you can put a lot of videos that are made from AI on YouTube and you can get your channel monetized. What he means is, if you're out there and you're creating content, I'll tell you right now, like just the amount of money you make from YouTube AdSense is fairly abysmal. Especially with a guy like me who does a lot of short form content. I completely lost, track of the game on how many millions, tens of millions of views my DaVinci Resolve for Shorts series has driven. Hundreds of videos, millions and millions and millions of views, and I think it just broke $2,000 after 2 years. You just can't live on it, right? So the ability to make money doing other things, create different multiple revenue streams, so I can make a little money here, a little money there, and all of these things play together to help allow me to do the kind of things that I do, is be a content creator full time. The same with Nick. This monetization, working with sponsors, building products, all those things. AI can make all of that so much easier across the board. I want to show. Here's an interesting thing. You probably have this too. Let me see if I can share a screen over here for a second. Let me grab a window. Entire screen. Yeah, why not? I think it's this one here. Okay. So this is YouTube Studio. This is my YouTube Studio, and a perfect example of AI really becoming helpful. I think a lot of people get lost when you send them into places like, let me make sure I got this muted so nothing's popping through. When you get into your analytics, and I say, dive into your advanced analytics. This is going to help you understand. Like, a lot of this stuff is very confusing for people who are new to YouTube, and even people who have been on YouTube a long time. But if you notice, like right up in the corner here, there's this neat little diamond shape, which is a new experimental tool where you can click on that. And this is literally AI built inside of YouTube Studio saying, hey, Daniel, how can we help you? And it's Ask Studio. It's literally called Ask Studio. And it says, okay, well, here's the studio. I can ask any question. It gives you some, different things like summarize my comments, suggest new video ideas, summarize my channel performance. But you could ask it anything in the world that you normally would have to go into your analytics and start pulling data. But you could say, like, how many returning viewers did my channel get last month? And just pop it in, and it's going to take the time to go through your data, and you could just like let it do. Let's see how well it performs. It's still in experimental mode, but it'll pop out an answer for you as it digs through your data. I guess it's still experimenting, but I was using this the other day, and it was actually really handy, right? It's like totally confused it. So it says right here.
It's like, oh my gosh, it's Daniel Batal. Maybe it's free. Maybe it's fanboying out on you.
Right. In the last 28 days, September 30th, 2025, right? Your channel had 303 returning viewers. This is 3% decrease compared to the last 28. So it gave you even more information like, I've gotten fewer returning viewers. So if I want to, like, I could go down a rabbit hole here and I could start asking it more questions like, how can I get more returning returning viewers? And you can start using it to do things that you can't just do looking at YouTube Studio, because it'll sit here, it'll start thinking about some strategies for you and come up with some ideas. It's going to take a minute, it's wearing slow. But here's all these ideas of what you can do: consistent topics, familiar host personalities, respond to comments more often, use community features, consistent branding, cross-promote. I mean, it gives you a whole list of things that you can do. And this is exactly what we're talking about when we say how AI can really be helpful. It can do things, it would take me forever to sit there and go, I mean, I know how to read analytics. Nick knows how to read analytics, but the average YouTuber doesn't really have a commanding control of their analytics and a knowledge base of strategy to go, I know exactly what to do next if something is off on your channel. I told everybody at the 8 months ago, it was 8 months, yeah, it was in February. I was like really vocal. I went on, I think it was on Twitter, and I said, I'm going to set a goal. Here's my goal. I'm currently at, I think it was 368,000 subscribers. I'm going to hit 500,000 by the end of the year, faster than my channel had ever grown. It's never grown that fast. I've had this channel for 7 years to get to 368. I had to pick up another 100 and whatever it was, 30 something. And we're about to hit it in a couple of days. And people said to me, how can you make an assertion like that? And Nick will tell you, it's knowing strategy and saying, not that just subscribers matter, but when you focus on a goal, if you've been on the platform long enough, you come up with a strategy and you can say, I know exactly how to do this. It's getting really hyper-focused on the content. It's making sure that I'm putting out more content than I typically do. It's being very engaged with the community. It's trying to make content that really resonates with new viewers who may not know who I am, dominating the YouTube platform for the conversation that I happen to be in. And it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of work and a lot of effort. But if you didn't know, if you're a newer, I think the number one question we hear from YouTubers, Nick, is usually, how do I get more views and subscribers?
Yeah,
right?
How do I grow my channel? Like, that's the thing. Yeah.
So the ability to have a AI Ask Studio assistant inside of your YouTube Studio, that's sort of like your own personal strategist and someone who can help you understand your data. Like, that's another AI doing things. You might hate ChatGPT, but the thing that when these GPTs are trained on specific data, like this one inside of YouTube it's only looking at specific data. The thing I tend to hate about things like ChatGPT is it'll chase after like Reddit. Like, if you try to ask ChatGPT or DaVinci Resolve question, it'll give you all the wrong answers every single time. There's sometimes I'm trying to figure out how to do something because I'm a noob. I'm still learning DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to be learning it for the rest of my life. It's a very complex software. But I'm trying to find out, I'm trying to do research, I'm trying to learn more to help other people solve problems. ChatGPT fails every time. But when I create my own GPT and I take the DaVinci Resolve reference manual and I say, hey, ChatGPT, we're going to create our own custom GPT, and I want you to only give me answers based on this 4,000-page reference manual and cite the pages where you're pulling your answers from. Do not guess. And I give it all this set of instructions. Don't pull from anywhere other than this. Don't go to Reddit. Don't go online. And I tell it exactly how to act. Now I get a more reliable AI. And I think that's one of the things that people would probably be surprised to hear, that you can do that. If I ask some people in the chat right now, how many of them have trained, how many of you guys are using DaVinci Resolve? Probably quite a few of you. And how many of you have created your own GPT and trained it on the reference manual so that you don't have to read 4,200 and whatever pages it is? You'd probably get, I'd be surprised if I could find one person that spent the time doing that, because I don't think everyone knows you can do that.
Yeah, and with that also, another thing that people don't know is that on the Google Gemini side, that you can also share your screen with Gemini, and Gemini can actually take you through that stuff looking at your entire screen. So basically what you can do is when you're sharing your screen with it, you can go into software. So like, let's say, for example, if I was in YouTube Studio We'll do it that way. Say if I was in YouTube Studio and I was like, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to get to whatever it is you're trying to find. Then it will look at your screen and it'll tell you, okay, now click this, navigation. Okay, now go up to advanced mode. Now that you're in advanced mode, over on the left-hand side, click to this second drop down, and it will literally walk you through the entire process that way also when it comes to, those types of things. So I think when it comes to learning and the rate at which, like, kids right now, oh my gosh, they're going to be in just such a interesting place because they're going to be able to learn everything so rapidly. I mean, we see what the internet did to kids, right? Like, kids are way smarter now than they ever used to be. So I think that, with this, it's just going to take things to a whole other level. But when it comes to software, things like that, like, you can just, you can use Gemini, to help you, go through that. And I think that, we're speaking before about, the threat when it comes to AI. Daniel, you and I are educators, and in your case, I think that you have a good moat around you because DaVinci Resolve is always putting out new tools. So because of that, you're always going to have, like, oh, hey, they have this. LLMs don't even know about this yet, so let me show you how to use it, right? But when it comes to like how to grow a YouTube channel, even though there is a staggering amount of nuance that goes into that, I think that, 5 years from now, I think that, Chat GPT or whatever service, they're going to, be able to coach you. I mean, YouTube's already working on it in Ask Studio, but I think that they're going to be able to coach you in ways that that are going to make YouTube help channels completely irrelevant. So, talking about tools, things like that, is still a win because, those are new things. But when it comes to tried and true best practices, and this is how you apply it to what you're doing, I think that a lot of educational niches are going to be under threat. Now, I do believe that people are still going to want to learn from people because, there's going to be segments, right? There's going to be some people that are like, I don't want to use that stuff. I want to hear a person and hear their interpretation of how to do this because it makes sense to me, versus, the other people that are going to be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to waste my time watching that. I'm just going to go straight to the thing and work through it. So I do see, the threat on that side of things. But I think at the end of the day, when it comes to, all of this AI stuff, I think that we're in a really unique position. Everybody that's in this chat right now, I think we're all in a unique position that we do have an opportunity to lean into this. And even though, like, it seems like if you're already in it, it seems like we're already pretty far along, but we're not. Like, we're just at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all this stuff. And I believe that even when it comes to YouTube, I still believe we're at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to YouTube too. A lot of people are like, oh, YouTube, blah, blah. I still think we're at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's available to us as content creators here because of all the translation stuff they're working on and things like that. They're going to open everything up to everybody. It's going to be incredible. But when it comes to all these tools, I think that we're going to have, people that embrace them, people that don't. But for us, like Daniel, myself, everybody here in this chat, I think for us, embracing these tools and thinking about, instead of being anti-AI, thinking of it like, okay, I might not use all this stuff. I might not use it to make videos or to make B-roll, or, I might have these certain boundaries that I put into place. But how can I use it to work more efficiently, to better understand, YouTube or whatever platforms you're operating it all on, to, to work on my workflow itself, to, better connect with other people, to better understand my audience. One thing that I like to use like Chat GPT for is if I see a comment that comes in and I'm like, oh, that's kind of new. Like, in terms of, somebody asking in that particular way, I might drop that into like Chat GPT and say, okay, I have an audience member that's asking me, this question, like, what do you think that their perspective might be on this? So that when I, reply to this, that I might be able to like meet them where they're at or whatever. And, you can use it for that kind of stuff. You can also use it to where you can go in, you can like screen cap your comments and screen cap your audience retention reports. This is huge. Screen cap your audience retention reports. I actually have a tool that I made for this, but it's not available yet. But basically, you can screen cap your audience retention reports, and everybody write this down or pay attention to this. Screen cap your audience retention reports. Make sure you get the times down in the bottom. You want to screen cap the whole thing. Drop it into Chat GPT, and you can build your own custom GPT for this if you want. But drop it into Chat GPT, then go into your transcript, copy and paste your transcript into there with the timestamps. and then ask it about your video and say, okay, based on my audience retention and how people responded to this, and my transcript, what type of information can you tell me about this video and how people responded to it? And it's going to tell you that, hey, the beginning of this video, it was way too wordy. Like, you didn't get to the point. The expectation was probably this, and so on and so forth. So like, you can also use it in those types of ways, because if you're a content creator like Daniel and I, where you're trying to make, an impact, then in that particular case, the best way to make an impact is by getting your content in front of as many people as possible and delivering things to them in ways that they respond to. So when you're using, tools like ChatGPT in this particular way, then it can help you serve those things too, to where you're like, okay, one, I'm going to do it on the front end. I'm going to put my script in there and see if I can tighten up the beginning of my video, for that. But two, after the fact, so I can better understand, because like Daniel was saying before, he and I, we've got, years of experience, over a decade of experience, of looking at analytics and interpreting all of that. But for somebody that's getting new or getting started, or if you haven't spent much time inside of analytics, you might not even know how to interpret some of the stuff that you're seeing. So like when it comes to your audience retention reports, that's one of the most challenging thing for content creators to understand, in terms of, okay, I see people are leaving, but why might people be leaving? And all the theory that you gotta, come up with in terms of what might be happening there. So you can use ChatGPT just to get some ideas. Like, you don't have to say this is the truth and this is absolute, but you can say, that's interesting. Didn't even think about that. So on this next video, let me experiment with this and see if, this different approach, or doing it in this different way, is going to make a difference in terms of how people are responding to what I'm doing.
It's really interesting that you pointed these things out, and I love everything you just said, because I don't think people think to do that, right? Like, wait a minute. Like, I don't think most people, most creators would even know how to do what you just said to go do, right? They wouldn't naturally go, oh yeah, I've been doing that all along. I've been taking my retention report, screen capturing, bringing them into a GPT. I've been bringing all my data in. I've been bringing in my transcript. I've been asking you questions about, look at the data from this video. Here's the transcript. What do you think based on the retention reports? Compare the two. I think in one aspect, it's too much heavy lifting for the average creator, I think. I'm not saying that
I got a tool coming. Yeah, I got a tool coming. It won't be.
And that's what I was just going to get to. I said, you know what? It's going to be someone like Nick who makes a tool that will do that in the back end, and he will use AI and generative AI to code and build that tool to hand it to you, so that you can just go, oh, cool. Pick insert video link here, analyze, upload, whatever. It'll pull all that stuff, and he'll make it so that it'll be easier for you to find out more quickly.
It's already made.
Why that
channel.
Oh, really?
Connect your channel, select a video, hit go. It's already there.
Look at that. Boom. Right?
Yeah, it's already there.
And the connect your channel part only has to be done once.
Yep.
So it's only 2 steps in the other one. So listen to this. Is exactly, I think that's why I get so excited about AI, is not because of, the threats it poses, is because at my core and at Nick's core, the reason we have the channels we have is because we are trying to empower more creators, specifically video content creators, mostly on YouTube, to be able to find success. Because as I said earlier, it's almost impossible to become a successful YouTube content creator. It's the odds of actually achieving success are so tough to begin with, that anything that guys like us can do to help you along or push you in the right direction, we're going to do it. We're going to try to give you all the tools possible to actually get out there and have every shot at being successful. And if AI can step in and make that easier and give you a better odds of being a successful YouTube content creator, you're going to hear us talk about it. We're going to push for it. And hopefully one of the things is, like, even as confusing as some of the things sounds, I think the sooner, like what Nick was saying, the sooner you get in there and start uncomplicating it. Anyone here who uses DaVinci Resolve, the first time you open it, it's like, oh, what the heck am I looking at? But after you've used it a bunch, you start learning the workflow, you start learning the language, you start learning what it can do. And as they improve the software and make it work a little bit easier, and the UI gets a little bit better, and there's more features to make it more user-friendly, you've got the knowledge base. So you're more prepared to capitalize on that. So I think one of the things that I was reading in between the lines of what Nick was saying is, like, the sooner as you as a creator start deciding which parts of AI, because it really is undeniable, which parts of AI can actually help you achieve your goals. And I'm not saying that you need to start publishing AI content that's all AI generated stuff, but just start finding tools that allow you to do the things that you want to do more efficiently, more effectively, and get better results at the end. If you can find the AI tools that allow you to do that, I think it's a win across the board, right? Nick?
100%. Absolutely, 100%. You know, like when it comes to all this stuff, you know, there's a reason people use DaVinci Resolve, because it helps them get the job done in a good way that's efficient as well. So it helps their output be higher quality, and it helps them get the job done in a way that's intuitive to them, right? So this is no different, right? Just a different set of tools. And I know there's all the environmental impact and stuff like that too, but you know, when it comes to, you know, all of this stuff, it's just another toolkit that we get to have at our disposal that we can, you know, leverage for good.
Leverage for
Yeah.
Don't go to the dark side with the AI. So listen, I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us today. Nick, is there anything? I'm going to get some links from you. I didn't put anything in, but you know what I'll do is I'm going to go back, and in the description of this live stream and in the pinned comment, I'm going to leave links to some of the tools that Nick offers, and I'll leave a link to his channel so you can keep up with what he's got going on. I think being able to sort of find some of these resources and just pay attention to what's going on can really change the trajectory in the next few years. I think it might have been Beanie or someone in the chat said it, that they said like 2026 is going to be crazy. And I think that's absolutely true. I think we're just going to start. We're just at the beginning here, and what we're going to be able to see AI can help us do in a positive way isn't just make slop videos that, you know, that have no heart behind them, because those will always fail. You know, there was slop videos that were low effort long before AI. There will be slop video, the low effort long after it. But if we can start latching onto the stuff that we think will help us, like find those tools more easily. Learn how to use those tools more easily. Learn how to put them into our own workflow, so it's not like, you know, get over the stigma of, oh, AI did that, because most of the time with guys like me and Nick, we're not using AI like, oh, we just clicked the button and it did our job. We're integrating it into our workflow that's allowing us to increase the way we put content out. And it is, I got to say one other thing. It is pretty funny. You know, you said earlier, like there's people will always prefer, you know, having content creators that are real humans to listen to and learn from. And I think that's true. I think that there's the same way that, like, you know, the records went away, then it was CDs, and CDs went away, and all of a sudden records are back there again. There's some people who just love
the same reason that people like to hang out with other people.
Right.
In real life, right? Like nobody, you know, there's a reason that, you know, people like to hang out with other people, and that loneliness is a problem. Right. Yes. Because people don't get what they need out of just watching TV or just out of interfacing with the screen and stuff like that. So I think that, you know, on the human side of things, I think it's just like a core basic need that we have. And I think it's going to apply to this stuff too. So I think even though, you know, some of this AI stuff is going to take some attention away from some humans, I think that, you know, people are still needed, you know, for all this stuff, and people still need that connection side for sure.
Right. But it is funny. The most successful content on my channel is actually my DaVinci Resolve shorts. And the number one answer I get for why people like them is, thanks for not wasting my time. You presented the answer to the problem, put it out there, and you get out of my face. So there is also an argument to be made, even if it's made by a human, which all of my stuff is, that people don't want to sit there and interact with you too much. Just tell me what I needed to know and get out of my way. So
right.
I do see the potential for educators, like you say. If you're not really honed in, and AI can come in and answer someone's question quickly and give them the right answer and get out of their way so they can get back to work. Yeah, I think it's going to keep educators on our toes, right? You know, more than anything else.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, like, and this is going to sound, you know, kind of weird, probably. Great way to make it sound weird, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to being a creator, and this is being a creator at your core, not just being a, you know, like a content creator, but, you know, like Daniel. Daniel's a creator. He builds stuff, like physically builds stuff. He does YouTube, you know, stuff where he makes content. He makes music, right? Like he's a creator. Same with me, right? Like I do some music stuff. I can do a little bit of art. I, you know, do graphic design, you know, content, you know, all that stuff too. Like I'm a creator, you know, at my core. So I think when it comes to, being a creator, when you have threats like this, because one of the things that I do is, every year, sometimes I'll do it quarterly, I'll do what's called a SWOT analysis, where you identify your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats around what it is that you're doing, so that you can make sure that you're giving yourself, kind of like that you're thinking this stuff through and you're being intentional moving forward, and you're kind of trying to hedge against certain things that might happen. So I think when it comes to being a creative or being a creator, part of that is when you do have these threats pop up and these opportunities pop up, to where you're like, okay, well, here's the threat. So as a creative, then, how might I utilize this threat to my advantage in some way? So, it might be a threat, but one, how can I navigate around it? But how might I also be able to leverage this in some way? And then when it comes to the opportunity side, that whole thing is about, okay, so we have this new technology. Not a lot of people in my space are doing this right now. So then, this is a huge, wide open opportunity to start creating some stuff right now that other people are not creating, so that it gets me ahead when it becomes so easy that anybody else can do it. So, using your creator, your inner creator, to look at, what's going on right now with AI, and just using that to apply it to what it is that you're doing, I think is the best thing that you can do for everybody watching this. This is the best thing you can do as a creative.
Nice. Well said. All right, listen, I will get some links from you from some of the products that you have, and I will put them in the pinned comment in the description.
Appreciate it.
We're going to have to get you back on here especially when your next tool comes out. And I just want you to show some of the tools that you got, because I think a lot of people would like to go, just show me the tool. Where can I get it? What does it do? And help people find, because I think that's really, in a perfect world, I love these discussions, because I think we've had so many great, interjections from the chat, just talking about their own perspectives. I think it's been a good way to sort of hash out some of the things I think we're all concerned about. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to go, hey, listen, we're all creators here, and we're all trying to find ways to be more successful creators. So if we can integrate more tools into our lives and be aware of them and get them on our radar, so I can go, here's one, guys, if you're trying to do this, maybe this tool will help you. We definitely have to do that. So put that in your.
I'm down. Yeah, just do it. You know the number. Yep, definitely down. Yep.
All right, everybody in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out today. Thanks for all of your input. It was really great. Nick Nimmin, thank you very much. Watch for all the information down below, and we'll catch you guys. We'll catch you guys soon. Have a wonderful day.